Hey everyone, welcome back to the Little Bishes Stitches Knitting Podcast. This is Catherine, your host. I am the hand dyer behind Little Bishes Stitches Hand Dyed Yarns, and this is a podcast that I put up every once in a while. There's really no rhyme or rhythm or schedule, but these podcasts are, for sharing my works in progress, knitting whatever I'm knitting on, whatever hand-dyed yarns are hitting the shop, and also to tell a little bit about what's going on in the shop itself. If you are new to this podcast, thank you so much for taking the time to check it out, and for returning subscribers, thanks so much for tuning in. So if you like this video, please like it, and if it's interesting to you and you'd like to know what's going on in the future, then please subscribe. So it's been a really long time since my last podcast, and I'm really sorry about that, but it just seemed, I think it was November, December, Christmas hit, the preparation started. I had Vlogmas, or just for the Advent Sundays, I had that going on. So technically around Christmas was the last time I jumped in to the podcast, and then the new year started, and as we all know, with the new year there's always new organizing, new things going on. For those of you out there with children and whatnot, it's homeschooling and everything hit, but we don't have to go through all that negative stuff. So I just was really busy, and a lot was going on in the shop as well. I had a lot of new yarn clubs coming in, and I was really working hard on those to produce them and to process them and package them and send them out. And I just also at some point thought to myself, maybe I also want to knit something. Just the time went by, and I thought to myself, a couple weeks ago, wow, you have not brought out a podcast in quite some time. So I'm really sorry about that. I don't really have a schedule for my podcast, but I will try to be a little bit more consistent in that respect. So today is not going to be an extremely long podcast. Just to give you an idea of what's coming up, I'm going to go through some of the works in progress that I'm doing, and then I thought I would go in to talk about a little bit about what's going on in the shop. So that's kind of what the plan is for today. So my first work in progress are socks. In my handmade or hand sewn bag. I also share this on my Instagram account. I don't know if any of you follow me via Instagram, or any of you have an Instagram account who are watching today for the first time, but I'll put a little Instagram information down there where you can find me. But this bag here, I guess I just want to say I sewed it and posted it on my Instagram. Just an aside, I'm not really a big sewer. I finally figured out how to work my sewing machine after having it for a year and a half, although as a child I sewed a lot, mostly by hand, but sometimes with a machine. But I wasn't really talented with it, so I thought whatever. But at some point I decided that I wanted to sew project bags, or at least give it a try, and this is my first project bag. So I love cupcakes. I think cupcakes are cool. Give you a little close up. And then I have my little pin from Knitvee. She is a Canadian maker. I love her sense of humor, and I love her expression, and she had these pins going on. What I understood was then newly an Etsy shop that she opened up, and where she was offering these pins. So I immediately ordered one, and once it got here, I put it on my bag. So like I mentioned, back to the socks. I've got quite a lot of socks in here. Okay, so this bag is so big that I can put a whole bunch of stuff in it. I can put skeins of yarn, I can put the socks that I'm working on, needles, everything. So if you get an idea of how big this bag is, it's not a bag that's big enough for, let's just say, to knit a sweater, but I have several skeins of yarn in here all caked up, and also 2 pairs of socks. The first pair of socks I can show, they're also not finished, or at least there's one sock that's finished, but not all, or not the second sock. This is the first sock. It's just a straight up vanilla sock with contrasting cuffed heel and toe. This is from a one-of-a-kind colorway that we had going on in the shop for Christmas time. And the contrasting color is our Mistletoe colorway. The main color, let's just say, is virgin wool. It's not anything, yeah, I guess snazzy. It's not merino or anything. It's just, you know, 75% virgin wool and 20% nylon, or 25% nylon. The contrasting colors is, however, a 100% superwash merino. It is a high twist yarn, and again, this is our Mistletoe colorway. So for the needles, I'm a really tight knitter when it comes to socks, and I always really like to use a 2.5mm needle, which I think is a US 2. Yeah, so that's my first sock. This is the second sock going on. When I first started knitting socks, I always used a circular needle because I just couldn't keep track of all the needles and the coordination of everything. And yeah, at some point I was quite interested in kind of getting rid of that and doing more so DPNs. And so yeah, I always use DPNs. This is on a circular needle right now only because it's holding the stitches. So yeah, that's the second sock. I'm still working on that. And I have the yarn from the socks caked up still. Like I said, this is was a one of a kind. I don't know if I'll be dyeing it again next year. I mean, it did come out quite well, but I don't know if I want to bring it back or not as like a ongoing Christmas colorway. And this is our Mistletoe colorway. It really is, you know, that typical Christmas mistletoe red with speckles, mostly black, and yeah, here and there's like a green going on. So I had to really organize this bag. It's out of control. Okay, so then the second pair of socks I have in here, or rather second work in progress, is this sock here. This is, again, a vanilla sock. The yarn is our 75% merino, 25% nylon, sock base, fingering weight. And this main color is our Absinthe colorway. It's a new colorway in the shop, which is really like a celebration of these kind of like gloomy neon greens and a really nice blue going on, and of course, as always, lots of lovely speckles. The contrasting color is our Victoria colorway. That's a tonal that we have in the shop. And the yarn that I used for this is not a 75-25. It is again a 100% superwash merino high twist base. So yeah, to talk a little bit more about how I knit my socks, I'm a big fan of the 1x1 rib and also twisted. So because you see it gives like a really nice stretchiness and a nice bounce to it when you don't stretch it anymore. And I really like that because there's nothing I hate more than a sock that just keeps falling down my ankle or down my shin or my leg. I kind of vary with the amount of stitches I cast on. Sometimes I like to do 69 or 64. I mean, since I'm a really tight knitter and I like to use the 2.5mm DPNs, I noticed that, yeah, you have to kind of cast on a couple more because otherwise you can't get your foot in here at all, especially if you do the twisted rib. So I like to do that. My heel flap, I did a real traditional heel flap and gusset. There was a time where I did this fish lips kiss heel or we say boomerang heel here. It was challenging. I liked it. It's basically comprised of a lot of German short rows, and yeah, it's really nice. But in the last couple of months, I've really wanted something that's kind of like stable, stretchy, and something that hugs my heel, and you can really do this with this technique. So like I said, heel flap and gusset, straight up traditional, and it is in a stitch pattern that, yeah, everybody knows this pattern. It's nothing like, you know, published or printed, but basically it is on the wrong side of the flap, it's always purl stitches, and then on the right side of the flap, it is a change up of slip and knit. So, and it gives you, like you see here, this nice stretchiness. So yeah, and then, you know, rest is just vanilla and a rounded toe. I used to do a lot of, when I first started learning to knit, or rather knit socks, I did a toe that was kind of like, yeah, edgy. I don't really like that anymore, and kind of thought to myself, like, okay, like how would you then like to change it so that you could get the effect that you're looking for? And what I do for my toes is basically when you're ready to decrease, I decrease every row, and then once I notice that, or I'll say my rule of thumb is decreasing every row 4 times, and then at that point I do the decrease every other row, and it worked out quite well. And another thing is too, the toe is done much quicker, and it gives you a nice rounded fit. So I really like that. Yeah, and so here is in my DPN cozy. Here is the second sock. I can take it out of DPN cozy. So 1 minute. Okay. Here I have cuff, and I just finished my heel flap. And I also turned the heel completely, and the next step I will do is pick up the stitches on the side. Yeah, it's always a good idea to have a pair of socks on the needles, especially a vanilla sock, because you really don't have to think about it. So yeah, so that's how far I am with this. And this is the DPN cozy that it's living in. I did not sew this DPN cozy. I have a friend who has a small, handmade shop where she does a lot of, sorry, that's my dog scratching in the hallway. She sews a lot of handmade items, or rather clothing for babies. And she's also on Instagram. I can put a little info down here. But we collaborated a little bit, and she sewed these for me. So I never really used DPN cozies until I had the idea to include them in one of my yarn clubs where one handmade item is included. And I have to admit, I love it. It just gives you this peace of mind that when you put your knitting aside for however long, I mean, because sometimes we don't know, it will be the next couple hours, will I touch it in a month? Your stitches don't slip off. And, which I think is also super cool, is when you pack it back in, your little sock butt sticks out. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, it's just totally, I don't know, it's just totally innovative. It's so organized and it looks so cool. And if you're lucky, you can color coordinate, and yeah, your knits just look great together. So what else is in my project bag? I always have hand cream with me. This is hand cream from Skritzy Handmade. That is a maker from the United Kingdom. She has really nice scents in her shop. Information for this I can put in the show notes. I have a Yang Yang and Yasmin or Jasmine scent going on. Smells really great, and when you put it on your hands really absorb it quite well. I mean, you do have to wait a little bit before you start knitting again, because there's a lot of fat in it, but not an overwhelming amount of fat. but your hands need it, and if you just give your hands a couple more minutes to adjust, then you can get back to your handwork. So yeah, those are my socks. The next work in progress I have is another Change Your Mind shawl from Counting Sheep. About a year ago, I made my first Change Your Mind shawl. I made that shawl with, I think it was Merino cashmere nylon, I believe. It wasn't really a fingering, it was more so a bulky, and it came out beautifully. It is so warm. And I also hand dyed the yarn myself and offered kits in the shop. And as spring rolled around, I had a lot of ideas for spring colors, and I thought to myself, like, wow, these colors would look really great with another Change Your Mind shawl. So I decided to put kits in the shop again for the Change Your Mind shawl by Counting Sheep. And this weekend I cast it on. So this is the first stages of the Change Your Mind shawl. It's her instructions are very easy to read, and she's super nice too. So I can imagine if you ordered any of her patterns and you had any questions, she would answer you very friendly and give you quite a few tips. Yeah, but like I said, it's really very enjoyable to knit. It starts with a garter tab cast on, and I just love how it also includes this beautiful garter edge with the garter tabs, and I love the eyelets going down the middle. Yeah, and it also has a really beautiful kind of like, you know, minimalist lace pattern going on. So, and this is my donut from Seeker Miniatures. Oopala. Bouncing everywhere. There, yeah. This is one of our kits from the shop for the Change Your Mind shawl. This kit includes our Kosmos colorway, which is right here. And I also have it caked up. So this is our Kosmos colorway caked. And then I keep going with somewhat of a contrasting purple. This is our electric side colorway, and I also have that here caked up. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure yet how I want to like compose the shawl. If I want to, yeah, I mean, I would obviously have a sequence of the colors, but I might change them up a little bit in the sense of like I already knit them and then I would include them again, but maybe like in a reverse sequence fashion. I'm not really sure, but just to give you an idea of like what the colors look like in the kit, it's basically these colors right here. This is Kosmos. This is the first color that I included in the shawl. The second color here is our electric slide colorway, and the third colorway here is our Peep colorway. I called it Peep because it reminds me of, I don't know, for maybe, I don't know if the UK has them, but the United States, every time Easter rolls around, there's Peeps. There's like these little marshmallow bunnies or little chicks, and they're either like this crazy yellow color or they're this really hot pink insane color, and that just really remind me of that. Sorry, that's blowing out a little bit because of the window. But yeah, I thought it would look really awesome with these three colorways together, and so yeah, so I started that up. Okay, so yeah, that is my Change Your Mind shawl. Good. The next project I have is the Rift sweater from Jared Flood. I shared this sweater in the last podcast that I did, and the story behind the sweater is this is a sweater that's for my husband, and 2 years ago or maybe 3 in the meantime, I wanted to knit him a sweater because, yeah, you always knit I don't know, socks or hats or something for, you know, someone you love. And I was like, let me knit you a pair of socks, no? And he was like, no, I sweat so much, I don't want socks. So then while I was like, I think either I was on Ravelry or I saw it on Instagram, I don't remember, but there was the Jared Flood Rift pullover. And I thought, like, wow, that's really handsome. I'd love to knit that for my husband. And so I asked him, like, do you think you might want a sweater? And he was like, yeah, sure, great idea. Yeah, so long story short, I might have not have been experienced enough for this sweater in the beginning. I took the sweater apart, I want to say 100 times, and I'm not even exaggerating. And at some point I got just so tired of like having these insane balls of yarn like rolling around in this bag, or rolling around when I was like trying to figure it out for the 60th time, that I just knotted each skein together after I ripped it out basically. And so at some point I had this ball of yarn that was like this big, and in the last podcast I was like, this is my ball of agony. And yeah, so getting to the point, I had knit the Ronin cardigan by Andrea Mowry, and I got to a point where I was like, ugh, I don't know what I'm doing. And what was really cool is that they offered customer service where you could ask about the pattern and if they had any tips for you if you got stuck. And from this moment that the me and gave me basically like a surefire plan to organize my knitting or organize the pattern, it just basically opened an entire door for the Rift sweater. So after I was done with the Ronin cardigan, I started again on the Rift sweater, and I do not lie, it brought me totally further. So here, this is the front. So technically, I'll like just, you know, raise it a bit. This is what the sweater looks like. It's, you know, it's a tubular cast on, but for here I didn't use the tubular cast on because it was a little bit tricky for me to figure out, but I did use it later on the sleeves, on the cuff. So technically you can either do a normal in the round cast on. It is a 1x1 knit and purl, so a 1x1 rib. And then it's from the bottom up that it's knit with a really beautiful pattern on the side, which allows then the sweater to stretch a bit on the sides, so I can see it technically on each side. So yeah, so like I said, from the bottom up, then once you separate for the sleeves, it is then flat knitting with back and forth. So here's my little Eiffel Tower stitch marker that I made myself. So yeah, so I was able to finish this part. This is, the yarn is from Brooklyn Tweed, and this is the, I think it's the Soot colorway. So yeah, for this sweater, I also learned from the Ronin cardigan. I did do a swatch for it until I got gauge, and it really, really did help, because the other problem that I had when I was knitting this the last time was not only was I not able to figure out the instructions, but my needle size was much too large, and the sweater was also therefore much too big. So yeah, so that is then the body part finished. Then I also have the sleeve, or one of the sleeves, done. Like I mentioned, I did use the tubular cast on for this, which I also found to be very enjoyable. This sweater, as you probably already know already, will then be sewn together at some point. Yeah, I'm quite excited how that's supposed to be, because I've never done that before. And yeah, and here is the second sleeve in the works. And this is a stitch marker that I have from Kath's Eye Catcher. She also has an Etsy shop, and she can also be found on Instagram. So whatever maker I mention here in the podcast, I will include in the show notes. So yeah, so that is my rift sweater. Yeah, and then another work in progress that I have that, yeah, it's almost, yeah, it's a blanket. It's basically something that you always kind of have in the basket next to your couch when you kind of feel like a cozy day, you just want to knit and not really think a bit or about not think at all. Yeah, and with this blanket, I also thought it was a great opportunity to use rests of yarn that yeah, that I guess didn't make it into a project completely, or I used a lot of mini skeins from for an advent calendar, from my advent calendar, and from an advent calendar from a friend dyer. And this pattern is the Cozy Comfort Throw from Homespun House, and this is what it looks like so far. So the yarn that I used is basically Merino nylon sock yarn. It's this marled technique. That's why everything looks completely marled together or completely kind of like melted into each other. Yeah, I mean, I've never used that technique before. I've always kind of thought to myself like, wow, that looks really cool. I believe the first time I saw that was when Stephen West came out with his pattern for the penguono. I believe that's also the same technique in terms of using 2 strands of yarn to melt the colors in, but also to give it or to give the because of penguono, I believe, is basically like a cardigan or jacket, to give it a little bit more weight, to make it a little bit more thicker. And it really is a genius technique, and I totally do enjoy using it. And I can imagine at some point when I find the right cardigan, I will definitely use it for that, or maybe like even a long knit jacket or whatnot. So yeah, beautiful pattern, very easy, very simple, and all the colors are basically melted into each other. I mean, there's a lot of, let's just say, hand dyers in here, but also some of my hand dyed yarn. This is hand dyed yarn from Mimiweatherwax. She's a friend that also lives here that also is a hand dyer. Here are some of the Patreon minis from a Homespun house. Here is also more colors from Mimiweatherwax. And yeah, here and there, there's also my colorways, more so here towards the top. This is our blue colorway, an old colorway we used to have in the shop. Our Victoria colorway mixed with our electric slide. In this section here, I used our mini set Black Dahlia. I thought that looked really, really cool. Just everything together with our, as the Black Dahlia mini set consists of the colorway, or the colorways Mississippi, Electra Slide, All the Girls Hate Her, and which other colorways in there? I don't remember. I'll include that in the show notes. Sorry about that. But like, yeah, it's just this really beautiful throw, and I can't wait to be done with it because it's actually going to be for my daughter. So yeah, so that's what it looks like. So yeah, I also have progressed on my Habitation Throw, but I haven't worked on it in a long time, but I do have it here. It is growing. I started this Habitation Throw a year ago, and I guess I have so many blankets and throws going on. I have the Habitation Throw by Curious Handmade, which I'm about to show. I have the Cozy Comfort Throw by Homespun House, and I have the Granny Stripe blanket going on, which I can also show in a minute. I mean, I had worked on it a while ago. It's a crochet blanket, but I haven't worked on it in a long time. So yeah, first things first, this is the Habitation Throw from Curious Handmade. lots of different colorways going on in here, lots of different yarn dyers. Here is from my hand-dyed yarn, Baloo, Cruella de Vil, I believe this is Pyretta, this is our garbage colorway, and this is here Locked and Loaded. The other colors that I used are from a Homespun house. This is from her Patreon mini series. She has a Patreon where if you select a certain tier, you get the Patreon vlogs plus I think 310 gram minis each month. So yeah, and it's technically everything all in 75%, 25%, or 75% merino, 25% nylon yarn, superwash, and it's really soft and feels good. Yeah, I really love this pattern because it is easy, it is fluid, it is it changes up from, you know, your normal kind of going long garter stitch to the yeah, simple lace pattern. So yeah, that is my Habitation Throw, where I pulled it out basically. I think to myself I would kind of like to work on it again, but I started the Change Your Mind shawl, and I should probably just stay focused on that. So yeah, okay, so I did mention that I would show you my granny stripe blanket. This is, like I said, a crochet handmade item. I guess I can start from here. So it's quite wide already, and I'm working on the length. So yeah, so I mean, knitting is definitely my first love. I learned to crochet about 3 years ago. My grandmother was a big crocheter. She crocheted, I would almost assume she crocheted probably more than she knitted. But yeah, like it was then with the knitting, I guess I just wasn't in the frame of mind where I could concentrate or to figure out what's back and front, what's right to left or left to right. And yeah, unfortunately, I started, in my opinion, in several aspects of all this much too late. But yeah, what can you do? I guess at some point in your life you realize, like, wow, that's cool, I want to try that. And then it works. So I guess if it's not supposed to always work in this traditional, you know, knitting with 5 or crocheting with 5, if you have the interest at some point in your life, it will come to fruition and it will happen. So I'm just thankful that it did. So yeah, this is what it looks like folded. So yeah, this is basically a whole buttload of hand-dyed yarns and yarns that I guess used when I first started knitting, and yeah, maybe I had leftovers and whatnot, and I just basically rolled up everything in balls and put it in this giant Ziploc bag, and I just go through whatever didn't get used up completely, and then I just keep adding it to here when I feel like crocheting. So I would like to at some point I would like to crochet a bit more, because there are a lot of really cool patterns out there. For example, from J Hope Crochet, I purchased her sock pattern. It's a crochet sock pattern. I never knew that you could crochet socks, so I'm definitely doing that. And then I also won from Counting Sheep, had on Instagram a giveaway for the 3,000 subscriber. They had the giveaway and I won. I don't know how that happened. I never won anything. And she said, yeah, now you get to pick a pattern of your choice for my shop. And I picked another blanket, but it's actually quite cool because it's like an Afghan blanket, and my grandmother crocheted so many Afghan blankets, and yeah, I figured, yeah, I want one too. So it's on my make her to-do list, and someday I will do a little bit more crocheting. So yeah, okay, so that is all for my works in progress. Now I'd like to move on to the segment where I talk a little bit about what's going on in the shop. Starting in January, I brought out a mini skein yarn club called the Mini Things in Life Yarn Club. This yarn club is can be purchased as a 1 month, 6 month, or year subscription. The year subscription is no longer available, but the other subscriptions are still available to purchase in the shop. This subscription includes 5 20-gram mini skeins in a base of your choice. We have either Merino Nylon Selena or Merino Cashmere Nylon or a Merino Nylon sock base. And like I said, you get the 20-gram mini skeins plus one handmade item and one 50-gram skein of kid mohair silk. And all of the installations of the subscription are dyed cohesively. So that means that the 20-gram skeins all go well together, and the 50-gram skein of mohair yarn is like a complementing color. So that was really important to me because yeah, I feel that we all know we see skeins of yarn that we love and we have our stash, and especially with the mini skeins, it's, you know, they're anywhere from 10 to 20 grams of yarn, and you always think to yourself, like, what am I going to use them for anyway? I really love them. Maybe I'll put them in a sock or whatnot. And I thought it was really important for me that the maker can also make a cohesive project with them. So yeah, that is doing very well. I'm so thankful for all your orders and for all your feedback about the installations. It really is exciting, yeah, to hear what you guys are thinking. And yeah, it really is a nice opportunity as a dyer to just go nuts and do whatever color you're feeling, and to do it in a schematic. And yeah, to, you know, see the photos posted on Instagram, or to get the message saying, my yarn arrived, I love it, or yeah, I'm so excited. And it's just a great feeling, because I'm excited for you that you got your yarn, and that you're happy with it, and yeah, that you can basically start your next project. So yeah, the next yarn club that we have going on in the shop is the Inspiring Castles of Europe yarn club. That is a yarn club that consists of also monthly installments. It can be purchased as a 1 month, 6 month, or year subscription. Each month you receive a 100-gram skein of yarn, including one hand product. I mean, the handmade products are really, you know, anything possible from the handmaker world. I have the Cozies, I've included them in this yarn club, and I've also included items from Sauerland, which is a maker here who creates a lot of soaps, hand care products, you know, body care products, and the whole idea behind the yarn club, castles are really exciting, and maybe they're also exciting to you. And since I live in Europe, I've also visited quite a few castles. I haven't visited all of them, but like someone else I know, she knows who she is. And yeah, it's just, they're very inspiring, they're very beautiful, they're very mystical, you're very curious about them. And I thought, what a great idea to create a yarn club where each month you get a skein of yarn that has been dyed inspired by the castle of the month. So I've chosen 12 castles within Europe. The first couple castles we've already had were Neuschwanstein in Germany. The other one was Corvin Castle. We had Corvin Castle from Romania. And last month's castle was a castle that is in the Czech Republic. So yeah, so far there's also been a lot of really positive feedback on this yarn club. Everybody's super excited, especially when they receive their yarn club. You always also, in addition to your yarn, receive a little ditty about the castle, including a color picture. So yeah, so that is our Castles of Europe, or Inspiring Castles of Europe yarn club. The next yarn club we have going on is our April yarn club, which is also a yarn club that is a surprise colorway inspired spring colors. And pre-order for that goes until April 30th, and the yarn clubs for that will ship on April 15th. This yarn club also includes a stitch marker from Cat's Eye Catcher, and the stitch marker will be inspired by the spring season. And also, I almost forgot, in our Inspiring Castles of Europe, we also have stitch markers that are castle inspired. It's always really cool to kind of pack a stitch marker along with that, and yeah, to make it even more special. So yeah, so that's our April yarn club. And starting next month, we will also have our have a yarn club. It will be our yeah, it's not a mystery skein yarn club, but it will be a yarn club where we have a colorway of the month. So I will always dye up a colorway that will also be a one-of-a-kind colorway. It won't be anything that will be offered in the shop, and or offered in a shop for a longer period of time, like the other colorways that we have already. And it will be something that I also show on Instagram, in the sense of like, this is our colorway of the month. And I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna make it a subscription, or if I'm just gonna make it something that you can just purchase once a month if you feel like it. There's no obligation, but there'll be news coming to that for Instagram in the next couple weeks, I'd say. So yeah, so that's all I have for today. I hope the podcast was interesting for you, and that you enjoyed seeing my works in progress and hearing about what's going on in the shop. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you would like to know what's going on in the future in the Little Bishes Stitches hand-dyed yarn shop, or the podcast itself, then please subscribe to my channel. So otherwise, I hope you guys all have a really nice Sunday, and a nice or great start to the week. It can also be great, doesn't have to be just nice. And yeah, we'll see you around. Bye.